Is it?
Yeah, I think we are live.
Oh, we are live. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I am Kwame Garrett-Price, and this is my brother, Ahmad Garrett-Price, Dr. Ahmad Garrett-Price, and he's here because he was the lead physician on my case and helped put together my care team. And he's got us here today in a good spot. But before we get started, we want to thank Camera and the Mighty for having us. We want to thank Heidi at the VHLA. We want to thank Chandra Clark at the VHLA, also the staff and the board of directors. We appreciate you. We appreciate all of you for having us and letting us tell our story and our journey with a rare disease, von Hippel-Lindau. So von Hippel-Lindau is a rare genetic disorder which typically manifests itself throughout your body in tumors, whether on your brain or spine or your organs. And in February 2019, I was having the worst headache of my life, and I didn't know what it was. And turns out it was a tumor pushing on my skull that it just had enough, and it had to come out. So I went and got a massage, thinking it was something else, thinking it was a headache. Okay, I need to loosen up. A few hours later, I ended up passing out and being rushed to the emergency room. So I had surgery within 36 hours of being rushed to the emergency room. Had a craniotomy, and they took out the hemangioblastoma from my cerebellum. And at that moment, after pathology and everything came back, I was diagnosed with von Hippel-Lindau, which is quite rare, incredibly rare. I think there are only about 200,000 cases worldwide, so you can tell how rare it is. But I was quite taken aback. It wasn't my first rodeo with like major surgeries or, things going on with my body. I've had major sports injuries, but nothing like this. So immediately, just because of who I am, I wanted to jump back into work, jump back into everything. Turns out after you have brain surgery, you really got to sit down.
This is true. Sometimes you take a break.
Yeah, you really got to sit down, which at first I didn't really handle well, mainly because, I run a business as well, Cal & K, which is a small leather goods manufacturer. We're based between Dallas and Paris. So I actually had to put that down, had to shut it down completely. We were at the stage where, it's a startup. Within 5 years, I didn't have much help yet. So there weren't many people that were able to carry the slack and pick that up, while I was down. So I had to sit down for quite a few months. So as the year goes along, we begin to put together a care team, different specialists that help us manage the VHL. So around September or October of 2019, I was also diagnosed with renal cell carcinoma, which is kidney cancer. And I actually want to thank his office and Janelle Till.
Hi, Janelle.
For finding that, and when you have well-trained physicians and staff, they're able to ask certain questions and ask certain things of you and about you. And sometimes based on a hunch, they may order up some scans. And that's what happened here. And that's how we found the kidney cancer. So fast forward a couple of months,
could you speak about that? So what Kwame is really laying out is our kind of path of discovery with VHL from the point that, we were diagnosed and we found out what it was. That's when we kind of aggressively dove in, did as much research as we could on VHL, and then got him forward to his urologist to look at the kidney concern. And then beyond that, we just kind of moved forward, and we were able to, once we had really dove deep, we mapped it, and we could put the proper team around it. We had our early surveillance, if you will, intervals in which we would check certain things. So this, more or less at this point, was a check-in to see where we were at and to set our prognosis for how we would be moving forward. And so that kind of rounded out our 2019, if you will, where we knew what we were dealing with. We did our lab tests, which led to a path of discovery with our imaging tests, which got us down to seeing the necessary specialists and put this cohesive team around. And then we come into 2020 kind of knowing what we're dealing with, what to expect. Not that we're on autopilot, we're highly vigilant at this point, but it was certainly helpful taking that team-based approach.
Yeah. So at this point, we're monitoring everything. We're doing imaging quite often.
We started every 3 months in the first 12 months, once we knew what we were dealing with, to properly tease out where we were headed. And then once we knew where, and that's what got us to where we were, once we knew what we had, we could back off and kind of change that and loosen those up, those intervals up. So we went to 6 months.
Yeah, went to 6 months. And in 2020, we're obviously, in a pandemic. So we're still imaging. So we see that the lesions, the tumors on my spine are growing. And we decide to take action. And in February of this year, first week of February, I had a spinal laminectomy. They took 2 tumors off of my T1 and T9 thoracic spine. And that was spine surgery is, wow. It's a completely different thing. And I had brain surgery. This is coming from someone that had brain surgery, but spine surgery, you lift a finger, you feel exactly where it's pulling from on your spine. It's crazy. So it was quite the adjustment, having to ask for things, having to, have people wait on you, which is something I've never wanted to do, but, it's necessary. And that's the important part about having great people around you, or folks that'll just, when things hit the fan, they'll look out for you, they'll take care of you, and they'll do some of the lifting for you, which I'm thankful that we've had that, amongst my family, my friends, care team, physicians, nurses, medical assistants, strangers, quite literally strangers, have helped. So yeah, it's put us in a good space. But what I want to emphasize here is that we played offense with this thing, and we attacked it. We didn't let it, attack my body in the ways that it wanted to. And that was an important part of this right here. And that's why we're in a good space now. The life expectancy, I've never really say this out loud or acknowledge it, because I don't care. The life expectancy for Von Hippel-Lindau is, I think, 46 years old. I'm 34. By their estimation, by this disease's estimation, I got about 10 years left. But I estimate I live to be about 90 or 100, God willing. But the things we did, the operations we did, effectively extended my life, significantly. A lot of times they don't find the VHL or it causes renal cell carcinoma and kidney cancer. They don't find it until it's too late. You're so far down the line. Now having to remove whole organs, half organs, all of these things, and it's you've lost control of it. But we were encouraged to control this thing, and the big part here, another big takeaway is overall wellness. Overall wellness plays such a crucial role in making sure these things that do attack your body, that they don't have anything to feed on.
Mm-hmm.
So, diet properly, exercise properly. I mean, it could be 10 minutes a day of walking. I'm not asking you to go out there and be LeBron James, but take care of yourself, take care of your body. And that's actually what helped put us in this great place.
Most
If you
definitely.
can talk about what, as a physician, overall physical wellness, mental wellness, how that all plays a part in fighting rare diseases or any condition for that matter.
Yeah, and so Kwame is right in that, yes, we did the traditional Western medicine things. We got the labs, got the imaging. We, used appropriate medications and modalities when they were important, team-based care, interval screening, all of that is important. But what is just as important is the whole health and wellness part of this. And I always tell my patients that, our bodies are amazing, amazing machines if we treat them right. So you got to give it good gas, putting good food in your body, exercise, physical activity, sleep, positive affirmations, prayer, and mental health. All of that neck down is in conjunction with you just being healthy. And when we create these clean environments, and I always tell my patients about clean internal environments, and that will help you ward off disease. Does not give that disease food to fuel to feed on, if you will. But also what it does is, and one of the reasons Kwame is able to sit here today and his recoveries go well, is that the recovery process after these large procedures, after these large undertakings, are just that more tolerable, if you will, when you have almost prepared for the race. And I'll use another analogy. I tell my patients, when you go into surgery, you just don't go in that day. I want you to be prepared for that. I want you to have ate well. I want you to have hydrated. I want you to have slept, because that, we know from a physiology, the way the body works, will certainly facilitate and help you heal a bit better. So to me, personal health, if you will, starts and ends with how we take care of ourselves. And that was consistent feedback along the way from everyone involved in the case. We were all marveled at how he recovered and was able to move forward. And a lot of that was absolutely due to how well he took care of himself. We doubled down on wellness. We doubled down on the foods that he ate. We doubled down on a lot of different things. And that, we can say, yes, that's less Western medicine, more Eastern, but a great mix of both is always healthy.
Yeah, I'm a miracle, pretty much. I'm kidding, but it's like it didn't happen overnight, and it's because of all the things that he just mentioned. And throughout this process, I started doing things that I thought about before, and but never had done. Like, for instance, I sought the help of a therapist, which was incredibly important. I thought I could go within and power through and find the inner strength and be resilient, blah, blah, blah. I had to get some help. This thing is hard. These things, they come into our body and they don't just attack you physically, they attack you mentally.
Yep.
I always figured I'd bounce back physically. Like I said, I had a lot of sports injuries, and you come back from those ACLs and things like that. So I'm confident my body can heal, but your mind, my mind, even still today, like, it's a battle. It's a battle day in and day out.
And we can, and from my standpoint, what I would like to say, first and foremost, we've always been mental health advocates. But for me, being in this space, being a healthcare provider, seeing it day in, seeing it day out, seeing how it affects folks. I will say, and I don't think I've indicated this to Kwame before, but once we dove down into VHL, and obviously I've cared for other patients with, rare cancers, if you will, or malignancies, and the takeaways from those really helped kind of drive some of what we did here. But one of our key points in our team meetings, clinical meetings early, was mental health. We knew that, yes, we can handle physical health, but that was one of our, if you looked at our playbook, that was near the top, because we knew as the mind would go, the body would go. So with the health, the recovery, right? And basically keeping him engaged, because we knew this was going to be a journey, and cannot underscore that enough. And that mental health leads to great physical health. Good mental health leads to great physical health. And that is the connection there that we wanted to put together. Not only did we want to treat the disease, we wanted to treat the brain literally from a psychological, psychosocial perspective. And that was key to us. And with any disease process, we think that's key.
And I think that's why I'm thriving on this journey, is because I changed how I view things.
Mm-hmm.
These diseases, they attack your body, and they try to own it. But I felt like from day one, I own these conditions. They go as I go. They go as I let them go. And if I let them run wild by not taking care of myself physically and mentally, well, we know how that ends up. But I didn't do that, and I don't allow that. I feel like they pay rent in my body,
Right.
And, some days they'll have a really good day.
The disease has a good day, but we don't let it win.
The disease has a good day. It sometimes a good week, they go in. But I always understand that to be temporary. And I feel like these conditions have gotten me closer to who I really am. And they've allowed me to step deeper into my purpose,
Right.
In my work and my personal life. They've allowed me to access a different level, I feel like.
And I'll go one step further, aside from Kwame's case and just in my, clinical experience over, 10, 15 years of practicing, and that there have certainly been, things that I have seen in my career where I thought an outcome would be different, but we had an unexpected favorable outcome because we managed certain aspects and kept that person, if you will, in the game from a psychological, from a mental perspective. So if you think that mental health is something that cannot change an overall outcome, I would beg to differ based off loads of clinical experience. And that's how important it is. It can literally change an outcome. And we want to stress that point. So yes, drilling and doubling down in that regard is certainly should be a part of any care plan, be that VHL or whatever you're dealing with at the moment.
Why do you think that's not always addressed, like in the moment or on the surface, like when these things occur? Why is that always the last thing that,
Well, I think we get bogged down in the physical medicine, which we should. And I shouldn't, maybe bogged down is not the right word, but it is definitely, I think that's the first thing that we look at. And when you look at the medical literature, that's not always addressed as being, hey, this is what you're going to do for VHL. But if you've taken care of patients, you understand how all these interconnections are intertwined. But I think it's more or less that is not the typical approach. But I certainly think that compassionate care surrounding someone with a wellness ecosystem is a way to facilitate and drive a better outcome. So I think we just have to be more, has to be more top of mind, and we have to advocate for that amongst other things. And that will get us to the place to where this becomes just like we placed this referral, that was one of the first referrals we placed, right? We went to a surgeon, neurosurgeon, the clinical team, and we made a referral to a psychologist or psychiatrist. And so maybe those should be in the treatment algorithms, and maybe we do a deeper dive there. And that's the responsibility of us as a system, healthcare, to deliver that to the community at large. And then we'll kind of go back to advocacy also, and advocating for that is certainly a big part of that equation.
So kind of speak about, we health equity and patient advocacy actually go hand in hand. So if I'm a patient, I have to be my biggest advocate from day one.
Yes,
so
indeed.
What's the best way as a patient to address doctor's visits? Because you could get run right out of the room, not find out what you need to find out, space your visits out, too much. Like, how do you mitigate that?
So I think one of the best ways to mitigate it is what I call, shared decision making. It's several layers, right? So when I think of advocacy and I think of, health equity, and I'll just speak from a physician standpoint. Well, my job to advocate for my patients is to listen first and foremost. You learn the most when you listen, period, right? So I shut up, I let them talk. And another thing that I tell my patients, I tell each and every one of my patients, you are the best doctor in the room, all right? And what that means is you know exactly what's going on with you. You know how you feel, how you don't feel. That's mentally, physically, spiritually, etc. My job is to listen to that and put some fancy terms on that. And maybe, if we need to, put some fancy pharmacotherapeutic medications around that. So that's first and foremost, as a physician, my own critique for my profession is we just need to listen and be attentive to the actual needs. And that's actual personalized care. And then driving on the person side, or the patient, the very human side, again, taking ownership and participating from day one, right? Learning where you are in that care journey. We have VHL where we started, where we're at now, and really understanding where you are in that journey. And I call it almost like a pre-visit questionnaire for yourself. Come to those visits, ready, engaged, maybe understanding where you are in that treatment algorithm. When I say algorithm, I should just say pathway. Where are you at in the pathway? What medications am I on? Who am I seeing? Why am I seeing? The where, why, when, and how. Just very basic things. You don't necessarily have to, the internet and be the most versed, and just engage and make that something that you can have make sense to you. And if it does not make sense to you, you get to a point and you ask those questions until it makes sense to you. And it's our job in the industry to give that information back to you in a manner in which you understand. So, that's actually one take home is I would say, do not leave a visit and not understand what just happened and not understand what's next. And maybe even take your own notes after a visit, or bring your own notes into a visit, right? But again, I always say the advocacy starts internal. I am a provider that takes on my patients in a partnership manner. So we are partners in care, and that's how you should view your care, not a unidirectional flow. It is a bi-directional flow and decision-making process. And traditionally, you need to participate in that. And sometimes we don't, but we want to highly encourage that for sure.
It's funny you say that. After all of my visits, I go sit in the car for about 10 to 15 minutes and just open up my notes and just take down almost verbatim, since it's so fresh, exactly what I heard, everything they told me. There's the doctor reports they print out, but those are kind of generic sometimes. So you really have to drill down. And that's how I remember what's going on with me. What are the next steps? How the physician feels, how I feel. I write that down or jot it down as soon as the visit is over. Mm-hmm. I guess there are a lot of takeaways here, but for me, the main thing I want to leave you with is something I said earlier. Own these things, own these conditions. They inhabit space in your body, but they don't have to control your mind. And that is why I'm in such a good place. Like I said, I still struggle, but for the most part, I'm in a great place because I'm winning the mental battle.
Mm-hmm.
So own these things. They don't control you. They don't control your day to day. They don't control what happens at work in your mind. I know that's hard. Like I said, some days they'll win, some weeks they'll win,
Mm-hmm.
but it does not have to be that way all the time. You wake up the next day and you go at it again. Don't position yourself as woe is me. Wake up, hit it, get to it, and make the best of every day, no matter what.
Most definitely. And then for me, the take homes, healthcare is the ultimate team sport, right? So team-based care, proper intervals in care, advocacy for oneself, empowerment, engagement, and wellness. Wellness, 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 and more wellness. Take care of yourselves, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
So again, we'd like to thank the mighty
Thanks to the mighty and the VHL Foundation for sure.
VHLA, Chandra Clark, Josh Mann, Heidi, Jennifer, everyone over there. We appreciate you so much, and couldn't ask for more from you all. And you all have a good day. I appreciate you. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you later.
Will do.